Have you ever wondered why certain moments in your life feel charged with an inexplicable spiritual electricity, as if heaven itself is orchestrating events to bring you exactly where you need to be? You didn't arrive at this message by mere coincidence. If you're reading these words right now, it's because the Sacred Heart of Jesus is calling you to participate in one of the most powerful spiritual events of the entire liturgical year. June 11th, the Feast of the Sacred Heart. Padre Pio himself declared this day to be a divine appointment, where ordinary souls can experience extraordinary graces, but only if they know the secret he discovered through years of mystical communion with Christ's burning heart of love. This isn't just another feast day to mark on your calendar. It's a portal of grace that opens once a year, offering blessings so profound that they can literally reshape your destiny. The great mystic saint from Pietrelcina understood something that most Catholics never learn. The Sacred Heart of Jesus doesn't just symbolize God's love. It's a living, beating source of miraculous power that becomes especially accessible on this sacred day. Through his stigmata, his visions, and his deep union with Christ, Padre Pio received revelations about how to approach the Sacred Heart with the kind of faith that moves mountains and opens floodgates of divine provision. He witnessed countless miracles occur when people applied his specific teachings about this feast day, watching as broken marriages were restored, impossible financial situations were resolved, and desperate health conditions were completely healed. What made the difference wasn't just their faith, but their precise preparation and the sacred words they spoke at the exact moment when heaven's treasury opens widest. For decades, Padre Pio shared this secret only with his closest spiritual children, those souls who had proven their readiness to receive such powerful graces. But now, in these times of unprecedented global uncertainty and spiritual hunger, these teachings are being revealed to all who have ears to hear and hearts ready to receive. The three sacred words that Padre Pio taught, words so simple a child could speak them, yet so powerful they can unlock divine abundance in every area of your life, are about to be shared with you. However, before I reveal this transformative secret, you must understand that receiving these graces requires more than just knowing the words. It demands a heart prepared through specific spiritual practices that Padre Pio outlined with mathematical precision. Are you ready to discover why June 11th could become the most important day of your entire year? Before Padre Pio received the stigmata, before he became famous for his miracles and bilocation, he spent countless hours in deep contemplation of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, discovering layers of spiritual truth that would later form the foundation of his most powerful teachings. Through his mystical experiences, he learned that the Sacred Heart isn't merely a devotion, it's a living reality, a spiritual doorway through which Christ continues to pour out his redemptive love with the same intensity he demonstrated on Calvary. The feast day of the Sacred Heart, Padre Pio explained, represents the annual climax of this divine outpouring, when the veil between heaven and earth becomes gossamer thin, and even the most ordinary believer can touch the extraordinary. This understanding came to him not through theological study alone, but through direct mystical encounters where he experienced firsthand the transformative power that flows from Christ's pierced heart. In his spiritual direction of souls, Padre Pio would often explain that the Sacred Heart devotion on June 11th operates according to specific spiritual laws, much like physical laws govern the natural world. Just as a radio must be tuned to the correct frequency to receive a signal clearly, he taught that our hearts must be properly prepared and aligned to receive the full spectrum of graces available on this sacred day. This preparation involves three essential elements: purification through sacramental confession, consecration through specific prayers, and activation through the sacred words that serve as a key to unlock heaven's storehouse. Padre Pio was adamant that these weren't mere suggestions but spiritual requirements, as necessary as having the right key to open a locked door. Those who approach the Sacred Heart feast day casually or unprepared would certainly receive some graces. God's mercy is infinite, but they would miss the torrential downpour of blessings reserved for those who understood and followed the complete protocol. The saint from Pietrelcina often used the analogy of a farmer preparing for harvest to explain this spiritual preparation. Just as a farmer must till the soil, plant the seeds, and tend the crops before expecting a harvest, those seeking the abundant graces of the Sacred Heart must engage in deliberate spiritual cultivation in the days leading up to June 11th. This isn't about earning God's love that's freely given, but about creating the optimal conditions in our souls to receive and retain the graces He wishes to bestow. Padre Pio witnessed countless instances where people who followed his preparation guidelines experienced what he called multiplication miracles, blessings that exceeded their requests so dramatically that they could only be attributed to divine intervention. The three sacred words, when spoken by a properly prepared heart on the Feast of the Sacred Heart, don't just ask for God's help. They invoke a covenant response from the heart that promised to bless abundantly all who honor it with sincere devotion. Understanding the spiritual significance of timing was crucial to Padre Pio's approach to the Sacred Heart devotion, and he often taught that certain moments carry exponentially more spiritual power than others, much like how certain times of day are optimal for physical activities. June 11th, the Feast of the Sacred Heart, represents what he called a supernatural convergence, a moment when the liturgical calendar, the rhythm of grace, and the receptivity of human hearts align to create conditions for miraculous intervention. This isn't superstition or magical thinking. It's recognition that God, who created time itself, has embedded certain rhythms and seasons into the spiritual realm, just as He has in the natural world. Padre Pio discovered through his mystical experiences that approaching the Sacred Heart on this specific day, with proper preparation and the right words, creates what he termed a grace multiplication effect, where ordinary prayers become extraordinary petitions with heaven-moving power. The saint emphasized that this sacred timing isn't arbitrary, but flows from the very nature of Christ's redemptive work, which reached its climax at a specific moment in history and continues to be made present through the liturgical celebrations of the Church. On the Feast of the Sacred Heart, Padre Pio taught, "The Church militant on earth joins with the Church triumphant in heaven to honor the heart that was pierced for our redemption, creating a cosmic symphony of praise that opens floodgates of grace usually reserved for the most extraordinary circumstances." This is why he insisted that the three sacred words must be spoken at dawn on June 11th. Not because God can't hear prayers at other times, but because this specific moment represents the intersection of human time and divine eternity, where miracles happen most naturally. Those who align themselves with this sacred rhythm position themselves to receive what Padre Pio called first fruits blessings, the initial and most abundant portion of the graces being distributed. Throughout his ministry, Padre Pio documented numerous cases of people who experienced dramatic life changes by honoring the Sacred Heart with proper timing and preparation, while others who approached the devotion casually saw minimal results despite having sincere faith. This led him to develop what he called the Sacred Heart Protocol, a specific sequence of prayers, preparations, and practices designed to maximize the graces available on June 11th. The protocol includes not just the three sacred words that serve as the key to unlock these blessings, but also preparatory prayers to be said in the 9 days leading up to the feast, specific acts of charity to be performed, and a particular way of arranging one's home to honor the Sacred Heart during this sacred time. If you believe this ancient wisdom from Padre Pio can transform your life, just as it has transformed thousands of others, write in the comments, "Sacred Heart, I trust in you," and subscribe to receive more of these powerful spiritual secrets. Padre Pio's approach to Sacred Heart devotion rested on three fundamental pillars that he considered absolutely essential for anyone seeking to receive the full measure of graces available on June 11th. And the first of these pillars is what he called purification of heart through the sacrament of confession. This isn't merely about fulfilling a religious obligation, but about creating the spiritual clarity necessary to recognize and receive divine graces when they're offered. Padre Pio taught that approaching the Sacred Heart with unconfessed sin is like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. The graces may flow, but they can't be retained or fully utilized. He recommended making a thorough examination of conscience in the days leading up to June 11th, focusing particularly on areas where we've failed to love as Christ loved. Since the Sacred Heart Feast celebrates the ultimate expression of divine love, this sacramental purification creates what he called a crystal heart, a soul so clear and transparent that it can perfectly receive and reflect the light of Christ's Sacred Heart. The second pillar, consecration to the Sacred Heart, involves formally dedicating oneself and one's family to the heart of Jesus through specific prayers and acts of entrustment that Padre Pio prescribed based on his mystical insights. This consecration isn't a one-time event, but a deepening relationship that begins with recognizing Christ's kingship over every aspect of our lives and committing to honor his Sacred Heart as the center of our homes and hearts. Padre Pio taught a particular form of family consecration that involves gathering the entire household, including children, before an image of the Sacred Heart, and formally placing every family member, all possessions, and all future plans under the protection and guidance of Christ's loving heart. This consecration creates what he called a sacred hedge of protection around the family, ensuring that the graces received on June 11th extend beyond the individual to encompass all, those under their spiritual authority and care. The third and most crucial pillar is what Padre Pio termed activated faith, a state of spiritual readiness achieved through specific prayers and practices that prepare the soul to recognize and cooperate with divine action. This activation involves creating a Sacred Heart shrine in one's home, maintaining daily dialogue with the Sacred Heart through brief but heartfelt prayers, and performing concrete acts of charity that mirror the merciful love flowing from Christ's pierced heart. Padre Pio insisted that activated faith requires both interior disposition and exterior action. It's not enough to feel devotion. One must express that devotion through tangible sacrifices and acts of love. He taught that on the morning of June 11th, those who have properly prepared through these three pillars can approach the Sacred Heart with what he called covenant confidence, the assurance that comes from knowing you fulfilled your part of the spiritual preparation and can now expect God to fulfill his promises. The three sacred words, when spoken from this place of proper preparation, don't just make requests, they invoke divine commitments and release supernatural provision that can transform every aspect of your life. After years of mystical communion with the Sacred Heart and countless experiences of witnessing extraordinary graces flow through proper devotion, Padre Pio finally received the three sacred words that would become the key to unlocking heaven's abundance on the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, I trust. These seemingly simple words carry within them the entire theology of salvation, the complete surrender of human will to divine providence, and the precise spiritual frequency that resonates perfectly with the heart of Christ. Padre Pio explained that these words aren't merely a prayer, but a declaration of faith that activates what he called the covenant of trust, an ancient spiritual principle where absolute surrender to God's will releases unlimited divine provision. When spoken at dawn on June 11th by a properly prepared heart, these three words become what he termed a master key that opens every locked door in a person's spiritual and material life. The power of Jesus, I trust, lies not in the words themselves but in the complete abandonment they represent, a total release of our need to control outcomes, and a perfect alignment with the Sacred Heart's desire to shower blessings upon those who approach with childlike confidence. Padre Pio taught that the Sacred Heart of Jesus cannot resist the soul who truly trusts, because trust is the virtue that most perfectly mirrors the relationship between the Father and the Son within the Trinity. When we say, Jesus, I trust, with genuine surrender, we're not just asking for help. We're participating in the divine life itself, positioning ourselves to receive graces that exceed our ability to imagine or deserve. This is why Padre Pio insisted these words must be spoken at the moment of sunrise on June 11th. The dawn light symbolizes the new life and hope that floods the soul when it completely trusts in Christ's Sacred Heart. Throughout his ministry, Padre Pio documented hundreds of cases where people who spoke these sacred words with proper preparation experienced what he called trust miracles, supernatural interventions that occurred specifically because their complete surrender to divine providence created the perfect conditions for God's power to work without hindrance. These miracles weren't limited to spiritual blessings but included dramatic improvements in financial situations, unexpected healing of physical ailments, restoration of broken relationships, and the opening of previously impossible opportunities. The saint emphasized that the effectiveness of these words depends entirely on the sincerity of the trust they express. Those who speak them while secretly trying to maintain control over outcomes will experience limited results, while those who truly release everything into the Sacred Heart's care will witness abundance beyond their wildest dreams. Padre Pio often said that the Sacred Heart responds to our trust with a generosity that makes our human understanding of abundance seem poverty-stricken by comparison. Padre Pio developed a precise spiritual protocol for June 11th that begins the moment you wake and continues throughout the day, designed to maximize every grace available and ensure that none of heaven's blessings are lost through carelessness or lack of preparation. The day must begin before sunrise with what he called the dawn encounter, a period of silent prayer before your Sacred Heart shrine where you prepare to speak the 3 sacred words at the exact moment the sun appears on the horizon. This timing isn't arbitrary. Padre Pio taught that the first light of dawn on the Sacred Heart feast represents the piercing of Christ's heart on Calvary, making that moment the most spiritually charged instant of the entire year. As the sun rises, you speak the words, "Jesus, I trust," 3 times, with complete surrender of your will, your fears, and your future to the Sacred Heart. Then remain in silent receptivity for at least 15 minutes to allow the graces to penetrate every aspect of your being. Following the dawn encounter, Padre Pio prescribed what he called the Day of Sacred Attention, a way of living June 11th that maintains constant awareness of the Sacred Heart's presence and action throughout your ordinary activities. This involves beginning each hour with a brief prayer to the Sacred Heart, offering every action of that hour as an act of love, and watching expectantly for signs of the graces you requested at dawn. Padre Pio taught that the Sacred Heart often answers prayers in subtle ways throughout the day, through unexpected encounters, sudden insights, small acts of kindness from others, or inner peace in situations that previously caused anxiety. Those who maintain sacred attention recognize these grace moments and respond with gratitude, creating an upward spiral of blessing that continues to multiply throughout the day and into the weeks that follow. The protocol culminates with what Padre Pio called the evening offering, a time of thanksgiving before sleep where you acknowledge every grace received during the day and make a complete offering of your life to the Sacred Heart for the year ahead. This evening prayer includes specific thanksgiving for graces you may not have even recognized, a request for the Sacred Heart to continue working in your life while you sleep, and a renewal of your morning commitment to trust completely in divine providence. Padre Pio insisted that this evening offering is crucial because it seals the graces received during the day and ensures they continue to work and multiply in your life. He taught that many people lose the benefits of their Sacred Heart devotion because they fail to properly conclude the day with gratitude and renewed consecration, allowing the spiritual momentum to dissipate instead of building into lasting transformation. Those who faithfully follow the complete protocol often report that June 11th becomes a turning point in their spiritual journey, with blessings continuing to unfold throughout the entire year that follows. Throughout his decades of ministry, Padre Pio witnessed and documented what he termed multiplication miracles, extraordinary graces that exceeded all reasonable expectations and could only be explained as direct interventions from the Sacred Heart of Jesus in response to faithful devotion on June 11th. These weren't isolated incidents, but a consistent pattern he observed among those who followed his Sacred Heart protocol with complete fidelity and genuine trust. One of the most remarkable cases involved a widow with 7 children who had lost her home and faced destitution. After following Padre Pio's instructions for the Sacred Heart Feast, she not only received unexpected financial assistance, but was offered a better home and employment opportunities that provided security for her entire family. The saint carefully documented these cases because he wanted to demonstrate that the Sacred Heart's promises aren't metaphorical, but literally true. Those who honor Christ's heart with proper devotion can expect tangible, measurable improvements in their life circumstances. What distinguished these multiplication miracles from ordinary answered prayers was their comprehensive nature. Instead of receiving help with one specific problem, devotees of the Sacred Heart often found multiple areas of their lives transformed simultaneously. Padre Pio observed that when someone truly surrendered to the Sacred Heart through the 3 sacred words spoken with proper preparation on June 11th, the resulting graces touched every aspect of their existence like ripples spreading from a stone thrown into still water. Physical ailments that had persisted for years suddenly improved. Estranged family members initiated reconciliation, financial pressures eased through unexpected sources, and spiritual dryness gave way to profound peace and joy. The saint explained this phenomenon by teaching that the Sacred Heart doesn't merely solve problems piecemeal, but transforms the fundamental spiritual atmosphere surrounding a person's life, creating conditions where blessing becomes the normal state rather than the exception. Perhaps most remarkably, Padre Pio noticed that these multiplication miracles often extended beyond the individual devotee to encompass their entire family and even their broader community. Children of those who faithfully practiced Sacred Heart devotion showed marked improvements in behavior and academic performance. Marriages grew stronger and more harmonious, and even neighbors and co-workers seemed to benefit from the overflow of graces. This led Padre Pio to develop his teaching about covenant multiplication, the principle that when one person in a family or community establishes a genuine covenant relationship with the Sacred Heart, the blessings naturally extend to all those within their sphere of influence. He would often tell his spiritual children that by faithfully honoring the Sacred Heart on June 11th, they weren't just securing their own well-being, but were becoming instruments of divine blessing for everyone God had placed in their lives. The three sacred words, "Jesus, I trust," thus become not just a personal prayer but a declaration that opens floodgates of grace for an entire network of relationships and circumstances. The transformation that flows from proper Sacred Heart devotion doesn't end on June 11th, but marks the beginning of what Padre Pio called covenant living, a way of approaching daily life with the confidence and expectancy that comes from knowing you're in active partnership with the heart of Christ. Those who experience the multiplication miracles of Sacred Heart devotion discover that their relationship with divine providence fundamentally shifts from anxiety-based petition to trust-based collaboration, where they learn to recognize and cooperate with God's ongoing work in their lives rather than constantly struggling against circumstances. This new way of living requires what Padre Pio termed sacred maintenance, daily practices that keep the connection with the Sacred Heart strong and ensure that the graces received on June 11th continue to flow and multiply throughout the year. These practices include brief morning offerings, frequent acts of trust throughout the day, and evening thanksgiving that acknowledges God's constant provision even in ordinary moments. Padre Pio taught that abundant living in covenant with the Sacred Heart manifests differently for each person according to their unique circumstances and calling, but certain characteristics appear universally among those who maintain faithful devotion. First is what he called supernatural confidence, a deep inner peace that remains stable even in challenging circumstances, because it's rooted in absolute trust in Christ's care rather than external conditions. This confidence enables covenant living, Catholics to make decisions based on faith rather than fear, to extend generous love to others without depleting themselves, and to face uncertainties with expectant hope rather than anxious worry. Second is multiplied effectiveness in their work, relationships, and service to others, as if every action carries additional spiritual weight and produces results beyond what natural effort alone could achieve. The third characteristic of covenant living is what Padre Pio called grace recognition, the ability to see God's hand at work in both dramatic interventions and subtle daily provisions, leading to a life marked by constant gratitude and wonder, rather than taking blessings for granted. Those who develop this sacred awareness report that their lives become rich with meaning and connection, as they recognize the Sacred Heart's involvement in everything from unexpected encounters with helpful people to finding exactly what they need at precisely the right moment. This recognition creates an upward spiral of faith and blessing, where gratitude for past graces increases confidence in future provision, which in turn opens the heart to receive even greater blessings. Padre Pio emphasized that this abundant life isn't reserved for a select few, but is the normal inheritance of every Catholic who learns to live in conscious partnership with the Sacred Heart, beginning with faithful observance of June 11th and extending through daily trust and consecration. As you prepare to implement Padre Pio's Sacred Heart teachings in your own life, understand that you're not merely adopting a new devotional practice, but accepting an invitation to enter into the most intimate and transformative relationship possible with Jesus Christ through his Sacred Heart. This isn't about earning God's favor through religious performance, but about positioning yourself to receive the abundant life that Christ promised to all who would open their hearts to his. Love without reservation. Padre Pio discovered through his mystical experiences that the Sacred Heart devotion, properly practiced, doesn't just change circumstances. It transforms the person at such a fundamental level that they become capable of receiving and stewarding blessings they previously couldn't have imagined or sustained. Your faithful observance of June 11th through the three sacred words, Jesus I Trust, represents your acceptance of this divine invitation to abundant living in covenant partnership with Christ's heart. The transformation awaiting you extends far beyond personal benefit to encompass your role as an instrument of the Sacred Heart's love in the world around you. Padre Pio taught that those who receive the multiplication miracles of Sacred Heart devotion automatically become channels of blessing for others, not through their own effort but through the overflow of graces they carry. Your family will experience greater harmony and protection. Your work will be blessed with unusual effectiveness and favor, and your community will benefit from the spiritual atmosphere you create through your covenant relationship with the Sacred Heart. This ripple effect of blessing represents what Padre Pio called your Sacred Heart destiny, the unique way God intends to use your transformed life to demonstrate His love and power to others who desperately need to witness authentic faith in action. The moment is approaching when you must decide whether to embrace this extraordinary invitation or allow it to pass by like so many other spiritual opportunities that seem too good to be true. Padre Pio was adamant that the Sacred Heart graces are real, available, and waiting for those with the faith to receive them, but they require the response of genuine trust and proper preparation to be fully activated. As you prepare for June 11th, remember that this isn't just another religious observance, but a divine appointment with destiny, your destiny to live in the abundance that flows from the pierced heart of Jesus. Don't wait for a more convenient time or until you feel more worthy. Begin today to implement Padre Pio's Sacred Heart protocol, starting with daily acts of trust and consecration that will prepare your heart to receive the full outpouring of graces on the feast day. The Sacred Heart of Jesus is calling you by name, inviting you to experience the multiplication miracles that have transformed countless lives throughout the centuries. And your response to this invitation will determine whether June 11th becomes just another day on your calendar or the turning point toward the abundant life you were created to live. Don't let this sacred opportunity slip away. Begin your preparation tonight by speaking the three sacred words, Jesus I Trust, before you sleep, and commit to following Padre Pio's complete Sacred Heart protocol as June 11th approaches. The heart that was pierced for love of you is waiting to pour out blessings beyond your ability to contain or imagine.